this year, actor Riz Ahmed was nominated for the Best Actor Oscar for his performance in the film Sound of Metal. But the honor was bittersweet.
How is it that out of 1.6 billion people, a quarter of the world's population, none of us had ever been in this position until now? I asked myself, if I'm the exception to the rule, what must the rule be about people like me?
And by people like me, Ahmed meant Muslims. According to a recent study from USC Annenberg, fewer than 10% of the top-grossing films from 2017 through 2019 had a Muslim character on screen. And fewer than 2% of those characters had speaking roles. This despite that huge population of Muslims living throughout our world that Ahmed mentioned. I had the chance to discuss Muslim representation in Hollywood recently with two guests. Sue Obeidi, Hollywood Bureau Director at the Muslim Public Affairs Council, and Dr. Evelyn Alsultany of USC's Department of American Studies and Ethnicity. Dr. Alsultany began with the Cliff Notes version of how Muslims have been portrayed on screen in the past.
So we're talking about a century of stereotyping both Arabs and Muslims and squashing them into one group of people. And earlier representations in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s were of an exotic land far away that was magical, sort of dangerous, belly dancers, harem girls, rich oil sheiks. And then the image starts to change in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, where we start seeing terrorists, threats to the United States, threats to white women, very threatening to national security. And then more recently, after 9/11, there were more terrorist characters, but in response to some protests from community organizations, we start seeing a quote unquote good Muslim character who works for the FBI or CIA and save the day. Oftentimes they fight and die to prove that they are truly American. And while many see this as an improvement, it's very limited, it's very restricted. So a lot of my research looks at what are the parameters, and do you have to fight and die for the United States to prove that you're good? And then what Sue and I have been tracking more recently is a shift after the Muslim ban, where Hollywood writers and producers felt a sense of responsibility. And so we're seeing an expansion. It's not an endpoint, it's a beginning. We don't know where it's gonna go. But now we have a Muslim superhero on DC Legends of Tomorrow. We have a lead Arab Muslim actor on Dick Wolf's show, FBI. We have the show Rami and We Are Lady Parts, which really raise the bar in every way. And we have a list of maybe 20 other shows that have a Muslim character that has nothing to do with terrorism, which is very refreshing.
It's super refreshing, but let's backtrack a little bit. And Sue Obeidi, can you talk about, and I have to say, as a journalist, I have really had the honor of reporting on this issue for a while. And Sue, I've seen you in action on this. And can you talk a little bit about, because I think some people might say, oh, look, this is film, this is television, this is make-believe, right? People know that. But there is a real direct impact off screen. And what is some of that impact that you have seen on the Muslim community, especially here in Southern California?
It's really, you know, an issue of life or death. And that's something I've been saying for years. I've been with MPAC, the Muslim Public Affairs Council, going on 21 years. A lot of my work had to do with, you know, the industry. Since 2011, you know, we founded the Hollywood Bureau, but we've been doing Hollywood outreach way before then. And it is a matter of life and death. It is the way people view communities. Hollywood has a way of impacting not only how they see communities, but how they what they believe in these communities. These beliefs, these belief systems translate into values, and then that translates into actions. I mean, basically, the industry informs how we should feel about one another. That's how powerful the industry is. And for the Muslim community, Muslim communities, it really justified a lot of hate crimes around the community. It justified wars in Muslim majority countries. So the impact is very tangible, can be very dangerous and very hurtful. But this is stuff we've been saying for decades. And that's why pop culture is so important in changing not just the entertainment industry and changing narratives, but changing how we feel about one another. And so, we are seeing a lot of improvement, like Dr. Evelyn just said, after, Donald Trump basically was president. I mean, he was for marginalized communities a bit of a silver lining, only because we all band together and basically focus our efforts on the industry and helping the industry, working within the industry to change the narratives around our communities, whether it's the Muslim communities, the Black communities, which have been working at this forever, the LGBTQ communities, Asian communities who are still suffering from hate crimes. And so basically, this is the industry, this is the tool that is going to, I believe, not just change hearts and minds, but change actions and values around each other.
And as Sue just said, Dr. Alsultany, Sue's been working on this for decades, right? This is not suddenly a new concern, but now you've got someone like an Oscar-nominated Riz Ahmed really being vocal about it. And I feel like we have somehow pivoted into a new chapter of how Hollywood is really looking at this. Can you tell me what you are seeing in the landscape right now and what you think really needs to happen going forward to truly bring it up to the level it needs to be at?
So I really hope that this opening will continue. One of my concerns is that we seem to respond to crisis moments. So the Muslim ban led to a response. And it is ironic because Hollywood as an industry has contributed to demonizing Arabs and Muslims for so long, but now enter as the heroes in contrast to this Muslim ban. Same thing if we think about Black Lives Matter and the response to George Floyd and the protests. It was a crisis moment and there was a response, but Black people have been being killed for centuries. It's not a new problem. So one of my concerns is how we tend to only respond to a particular crisis as if it's not longstanding. So I think for this movement to continue, we need to understand not just a moment of crisis, but rather that we're dealing with problems that are centuries old. And therefore, there is no quick fix. There is no quick solution. It's a long-term approach. And a lot of what I've been trying to do with my research is look at how do we think about diversity? How are we even approaching this question? And how can we do it better?
Yeah. And I think to continue with those parallels, because I think you're just right, it feels to me that part of this new era, there's a lot of great work that's being done, but look, let's face it, there are going to be missteps along the way. There are likely to be oversights. The thing I keep thinking about, we talked about it on the show not that long ago, all the drama and debate over the casting of the Lin-Manuel Miranda film version of In the Heights and how there was a big oversight in terms of not casting Afro-Latinx actors in lead roles. Sue Obeidi, I was looking last year, there was a tweet that went viral a bit about the show 911 Lone Star, and basically there was a Muslim character who was shown praying, but was not accurately doing so, and folks kind of jumping in like, hey, can't you even bother to research the basics on here? So we just have a little bit of time left, but can you talk about, because you've been on the ground floor working with Hollywood for a while, how do you work through that part of it, where it may not be the egregious errors, but you're still not totally getting it right?
It is so basic to show a Muslim character praying correctly. All you have to do, you don't even have to hire MPAC's Hollywood Bureau. All you have to do is Google how to pray accurately. And, and so this is the learning process. This is the education process the industry is going to go through and is going through, and it's going to be a healthy growth for the industry.
Sue Obeidi and Dr. Evelyn Alsultany, thank you both so much for the really important work that you're doing in the entertainment industry and for speaking with us about it. Much obliged.
Thank you, Alex.